Welcome Towson University alumni and our graduating students. I'm Margaret Paulson, the Young Alumni and Student Outreach Coordinator and a proud 2011 TU graduate. Thank you for joining us for today's webinar as part of Senior and Recent Grad Week. I wanted to briefly share some information about the Alumni Association before we begin. We are a free organization that you automatically become a member of once you graduate. We have a free online, alumni-only community, Tiger Connect, where you can connect with former classmates, register for events, and see special discounts, benefits, and programs only available to alumni. Some of our discount programs include discounts on home and auto insurance through Geico, discount tickets to the Maryland Zoo, the National Aquarium, and the Hippodrome, just to name a few. We also have an Alumni Alliance program where alumni can form groups based on shared interests, whether it be a student activity that you participated in as a student, geographical, location, cultural, or identity. Please feel free to visit alumni.towson.edu and look around the alumni website to see all of the benefits and services that we offer. And leading today's presentation is Casey Miller. Casey is currently the Assistant Director of Career Education at TU's Career Center, where she oversees the majority of student-facing services for TU students and alumni. Casey is also an alumna. She earned her master's degree from TU in 2014. Casey, thanks for being here with us today.
Thank you very much for having me. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen. Here we go. Can everybody see the presentation? Yep. Okay. Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about job searching, in particular during the pandemic. So what it's looking like right now, and some tips and tricks to kind of help you through this process. So I want to start by saying that the Career Center is here to help all of you, including our recent alumni. You may have thought, well, I'm not in school, I can't use any of the services. So just so you know, if you have recently graduated, you are still eligible for up to 3 appointments with a career coach or career counselor through the Career Center for up to 2 years after you graduate. So if you're outside that 2-year time frame, totally fine. We still have a bunch of resources on our website. We have resources for community career centers that are not ours, but are ones that you can still utilize similar services, usually for a small fee, but not always. There are free services out there as well, plus all of our online resources. So Big Interview, Handshake, Tiger Mentor Network, and then everything on our website, all of our different resources, etc. Plus, you are still welcome to come to any of our recruiting events, including our major career fairs. So with all of that being said, ways that we can specifically help all of our students and our alumni. So even during COVID and the pandemic and not being on campus, we are still offering virtual and phone appointments. So this includes job and internship search strategies, networking in LinkedIn, mock interviews, and resume and cover letter reviews. I will also mention, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later as well, but we do offer career counseling. So if you are thinking about maybe a career transition, or you had a plan, but you want to kind of talk about some other plans to kind of some alternative options to figure out what you want to do or how to get there, we're here to help with career counseling as well. So we have express hours, which is when we're in person, our drop-in appointments. So to just show up. While we are virtual, we are using an inbox. So you can email a resume or a cover letter to expresshours@towson.edu and receive a brief review. So we will respond within 5 business days. Right now is probably our busiest time, and we're in about 3 to 4 business days in order to get back to you, but it is starting to slow down. So usually within a couple of business days, we'll have your documents back to you. We offer Big Interview, which is an online mock interview service, which is a really great way to practice not just interviewing in general, but in particular those virtual interviews. I mentioned Handshake, which is our online job search database, which includes full-time, part-time, and internship opportunities. I'll talk about Tiger Mentor Network in a little bit. And then I also want to mention our extensive online resources. So if you have questions about anything relating to career, the chances are we have information on our website about it. Our website is extremely thorough, which also means that it's a lot of information to kind of sift through. So stick with it, try the search function to see if you can find what you're looking for in particular. But definitely spend a little bit of time on our website if you're looking for particular information and either don't have time to get in for an appointment or don't have the right availability. So I want to talk a little bit about the job market right now. I'm going to talk in a lot of general terms, mostly because every industry is different. So some industries are completely paused, not hiring hardly at all. Some have slowed down, and then some are experiencing some massive increases in hiring. It all really just depends on the area that you want to go into. But also keep in mind that a lot of careers out there can fit into different industries. So if you're thinking of going into marketing, say, a large marketing firm might not currently be hiring right now. However, a hospital who's looking for in-house marketing is almost definitely hiring. So sometimes it might make a little bit of sense to be a bit creative with the types of organizations that you're looking to work for, even if the work that you're doing is still within the area that you want to be working in. I listed a couple of resources down at the bottom of this page. Candor.co/hiring freezes is a site that is regularly updated with who's hiring, who's not, to keep that up to date. On the Career Center's website, in our currently asked questions section, we're also weekly updating a list of employers that we have verified are currently hiring. It usually comes with a specific theme. So I know one week was our employer partners, another week or another couple of weeks were based on our career communities. So that's something that you can check back in about every week just to see people that we personally have verified are still hiring. So the short answer, the job market is not dead. There are jobs out there, but you might have to be a little bit creative. It might not be your perfect dream job right away. So when thinking about kind of how to do this job search and what's going to work best for you, I want to encourage you to focus on what you can control. So during times of constant change and uncertainty, which is what we are currently in, quite obviously, it is important to really focus and put your attention and energy into things that you can control. We can all drive ourselves crazy trying to spin the wheels on things that we can't control. But by focusing on what you can control, you can be more productive. Okay, so the first step I'm going to suggest is to create multiple plans. Most of you probably have thought of your primary plan, especially at this point, getting close to graduation, maybe having just graduated. You have that primary plan in mind, right? So this is what I want to do, or these 2 or 3 things are what I want to do. I want to encourage you to also think about alternative plans, which I'll get to in a second. Then we're going to talk about how to gather information. So who's hiring, who's not, who to talk to, and the types of organizations that are hiring. And then last but not least, we're going to talk about preparing and practicing. So things that you can do now, even if your dream job is not out there waiting right this second, there's still a lot of things that you can be doing right now to prepare yourself for when it is available. Okay, so your primary plan, a couple of things to decide. Decide and research the following. So types of positions, including keywords that you could use. So if anybody's ever done a job search before, which I'm assuming most of you have at least searched for an internship or a part-time job before, you can only search the same keywords so many times and get different results. Again, that's kind of the definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So make sure that you're mixing up the keywords that you use. If, again, I'll use marketing as an example. If you're thinking marketing, don't just keep searching for marketing, but think about other terms that are maybe related to that, maybe market research, maybe advertising, maybe public relations, marketing assistant. So mixing up the words that you're using to hopefully get different results that could lead you to the same end goal. Think about different position titles. So again, you might have the word associate is used in every industry a little bit differently, right? So really try to think through in your area, are there particular positions or position titles that you want to search for? But don't be thrown off too much based just on a position title. For a lot of industries, your position title is a little bit arbitrary in that each organization is going to call the same position something a little bit different. So really look at the qualifications that they're looking for and then the job duties. Is that a position that you're interested in? Are you qualified for it? So types of organizations is another thing to think about and decide. Again, your dream organization may not be hiring right now. Maybe they're a nonprofit and their budgets were cut. Maybe they're a state institution and their budgets were cut, right? So there are plenty of organizations that can't hire right now or have dramatically slowed their hiring. So think about organizations that are still hiring. I mentioned a couple of things before, but also do a little bit of research. If an organization has job postings on their website, check when they were posted. If they were posted back in March, it's probably a stale post. But if it was posted within the last month or so, there's a good chance that it's still an active post and something that you could apply to. Think about geographical location, right? So I know a lot of people are saying New York City's dead, like don't go into cities, all of that. That depends, right? And let's be real, numbers are still on the rise for COVID. So maybe you don't want to go to a highly populated area, or maybe that's your hometown and that's where you're going to be. But think about that geographical location. Does it make sense to maybe stay in your hometown and live relatively rent-free with your parents for a little bit if you have that opportunity? Maybe that makes sense. Or if you can live with a couple of friends for maybe lower rent than you would be living by yourself, right? So think about geographically, where does it make sense for you to work? This does not have to be your forever plan. Just because you're living there, working there right now, doesn't mean that you will always live there and always work there. And then last, but in some ways almost most importantly, think about the salary that you need. I think a lot of that goes hand in hand with your geographical location. Are you able to move, or do you need to stay where you are? But how much money do you actually need? I know later this week we're doing a session on salary negotiation, so we'll talk a little bit about budgeting and stuff in that. I highly recommend that you check that out, but definitely think through what you need in order to live the lifestyle that you're comfortable with right now. Okay, so alternative plans. This can look a couple of different ways. So your alternative plan, you have your primary plan. This is like number one, what I want to do. Your alternative plans are things to also think about in research. So this could be the path of least resistance, right? Maybe you had an internship. It's not exactly what you want to do, but they did offer you maybe a part-time job or a full-time job. So maybe it makes sense to take that for now, right? If you're not really having luck in other areas, then that might be something to do. If you're currently working a part-time job, that has nothing to do with what you want to do after school, but you have the opportunity to bump up to full-time or bump up your hours and make a little bit more money, maybe hold on to that job until you find your next spot, right? The path of least resistance is not always a bad thing, especially in a particularly competitive job market. Not a dead job market, but a competitive one, right? So path of least resistance can be a good stepping stone for you. Instead of thinking like, okay, dead end, like I'm going to be in this, I don't know, server position for the rest of my life. I'm never going to have another job. Just think about it's taking you a little bit longer to get back to that primary plan, okay? It's a little bit of a bump in the road. It's a bit of an obstacle, but you will get past it and be able to continue on your way to that primary plan. Try to think creatively, right? So like I said before, your dream job might be in a particular industry, but maybe you can do a similar type of job in a different industry, whatever that looks like. Try to think about, I want to gain this skill set versus I want to have a job in XYZ. Okay. So think about this as a time to build the skills that you need in order to get back to that primary role or that primary plan. Don't shy away from remote, obviously, positions, interim or temporary positions. A lot of organizations are similar to Towson in that they are fully remote or at least partially remote. And like I know my brother-in-law works in DC and they are renting out his entire office to someone else. They are fully remote and have decided that they will be that way for the foreseeable future. So they gave up their offices in DC. So there are plenty of organizations who are planning to stay remote for a long time. So try not to shy away from those opportunities. Also think about contractual, interim, or temporary positions. This is definitely very much part of that alternative plan, but can help you to get experience, get a paycheck, do what you need to do in order to set yourself up for that primary plan. Then last but not least, think about freelance opportunities. Depending on your industry, this may make more sense or less sense. But Upwork and then LinkedIn ProFinder are both options for promoting your own freelance work or your own freelance skills, as a way to maybe build a portfolio, as a way to gain skill sets or promote your skill sets, so that when that dream primary plan job comes up, you will have been doing things that are related to that area or related to that industry to show for it. Okay, so I mentioned this before. With your alternative plans, use this time to prepare for your primary plan. Okay, so even if you're taking that path of least resistance and it's a job that is just paying the bills, think about ways that you can still gain those skills that you're looking for in other ways. So what used to be Lynda is now LinkedIn Learning. There we go. LinkedIn Learning can be a really great way to maybe get a certification or complete a training in a particular area related to what you want to do. So even if your full-time job isn't necessarily part of your primary plan, you can use the time that you are making money in that path of least resistance to still gain skills in other areas. This is also a time that you can develop your professional contacts. Okay, so thinking about reaching out through LinkedIn or the Tiger Mentor Network or alumni associations to find people doing work that you find to be important. If you're not putting all of your time, effort, and energy into your primary plan right now, use that path of least resistance or that alternative plan time to still develop those professional contacts for when your industry starts hiring again. And then also use this time to research opportunities. As I mentioned before, consider career counseling. So discussing any of your transferable skills, so things that can work in a lot of different areas. That's something that we're here to do and here to help. Especially over the summer, we helped a lot of alumni with career transitions, trying to figure out, okay, like I need to pivot right now. This is not working. I have to do something else. So that's something that we are happy to help with. I think we can talk about additional areas of interest. So maybe you've had blinders on and you've been so focused on one area, you've kind of neglected other areas of interests. Or you have multiple areas of interest and don't necessarily know how to focus them into a particular career. That's something that we're happy to help with as well. And then also we've become really good at helping people figure out less direct paths to get to your primary plan. Okay, so where I think a lot of us think, okay, it's A, B, C to get to primary plan. It may be A, G, H, Z, F, I, B, C to get to primary plan. And that's something that we are very happy to help you figure out how to get there. So step 2, gather information. So research the organizations and industries that you're interested in, positions, organizations, figure out who's hiring. Again, if you're considering if a position is a stale posting, if you're doing an online search and you don't know if it's a stale post or not, reach out to the organization, send them an email, give them a call. You're probably not walking in there right now, but that's fine. You can still send them an email and say, hi, I see that you have this job posting for XYZ. I was wondering if that position is still open and something that you're still hiring for. If it was just posted within the last week or so, you're pretty safe to assume that it is still open. If it's been a month or two or longer, there's a chance that it might not be still an active post. Think about how related those industries and those positions are to your primary and alternative plans. If something aligns directly with your primary plan, you might want to put a little bit more time and effort and focus into that application versus something that aligns with one of your alternative plans. This can really be a way to prioritize your time and your energy and your effort. And then also think about who can you talk to. So the next section, we're going to talk about networking in particular, but this is really something that you can use either your time right now, because I know everybody has so much free time, but use your time right now or your time when you're in that alternative plan to really figure out who you can talk to and what connections you can make. Okay, so a couple of ways to actually identify some of these organizations, because I keep saying identify organizations. I'll tell you how to do that as well. So first, Handshake is always a good place to start. I'm never going to say this is your end all be all, but start with Handshake. It is a list of hundreds of thousands of employers who are specifically looking to hire TU students and graduates, right? So they are looking for you all. Start there, use the search filters. Don't just use keywords. That is not the most effective way really to use any search site, but in particular Handshake, make sure you're using different filters. Think about broad job search sites, Indeed, Simply Hired, Idealist. Again, they are an option, but not the end all be all. I would not put all of your time and energy into using only those job search sites. It can be one place that you look. I would also highly recommend looking for job search sites that are particular to your industry. So for example, for Margaret and I, we're both in higher ed. So higheredjobs.com is actually a job search site where we can go and find open positions in our industry. So see if there are industry specific search sites. Those are usually more likely to be active posts just because there's usually shorter time limits, there's larger fees associated with them. And so organizations, unlike Indeed or Simply Hired, who maybe have large accounts, those smaller job search sites tend to have more active posts. The Career Center website, we have this wonderful set of sites that we have curated called our Career Resources by Major pages. So for each of our undergraduate majors, but it really spans the industries surrounding each of those majors, we have brought a bunch of different resources broken up into different categories. So what can I do with this major, internships, jobs and research organizations, and then professional associations as well. So professional associations and professional organizations are a really great way to find organizations that are hiring, to research the types of positions that are out there, and to connect with people in your particular industry so that you can learn more about the options that are out there. If there are a couple of organizations that you already know you would love to work for, check out their websites, see if they're hiring, or see if they have maybe part-time work available or any sort of modifications that might fit in with one of your alternative plans. Of course, use LinkedIn. You can use the alumni feature on LinkedIn to see the 106,000, give or take, TU alum that are currently on LinkedIn and search through what everybody's doing. So a way to connect with others, but then also find organizations that maybe are currently hiring for positions that you're interested in. And then last but not least, Glassdoor is a really great site just to get some information about an organization. People may have recently updated that particular organization's page to say whether they're hiring or not. So that can be a way to get that information as well if you don't reach out to that organization or don't hear back from them. All right, so I mentioned the importance of networking a little bit. However, let me really hone in on this point. Networking is extremely important. So in normal times, so not even pandemic, normal times, about 80% of jobs are found through networking. And I do not have specific statistics. However, I would take an educated guess that that's even more amplified right now. Networking is how you find positions. It does not necessarily mean that someone is just giving you a job, but you hear about the position or you meet somebody who knows somebody who's hiring. And so then they can refer you to a particular position and it will help you in the application process. Again, does not mean that somebody's just giving you a job. It means that you find these positions through networking. Some of you may have heard this term of the hidden job market. Yes, it's a real thing. Basically, the hidden job market are all of the positions that are out there that are never posted online. About 50% of positions that are posted online are already filled or are stale, dead posts. So I've mentioned the concept of a stale post a couple of times. Basically, that just means that that position was either already filled, they aren't actually hiring for it anymore, it's just been up there for too long, or they had to, some organizations have to post a position for a certain amount of time, even though they already know who they're hiring for. And in a lot of cases, you have no way of knowing if something's a stale post or not, or if it's an inactive post. So if it's the dream job, if it's perfect, I would definitely recommend still applying, but also try to find somebody in that organization that you can connect with and just say, I'm looking at this position. I'm really interested in working for your organization. I just wanted to see if you had any information about the position or would be open to talking about the organization a little bit more. Any way that you can make a connection with somebody will help you to stand out in the application process. But more importantly, find the positions that you're looking for. So when you're networking, I want to highlight two specific approaches. So first, seeking advice. So this is definitely something that I'm going to suggest when you're in that alternative plan or right now when you're trying to gather this information. An informational interview is the great way to do that. So basically, an informational interview is going to be you asking a person about their job. I think my next slide has a little bit more information. And then the other approach is promoting your skills. So I think a lot of people, when they think of networking, they think of the 30-second commercial or the elevator pitch. So here's me, here's who I am, here's why you should hire me. That is great and definitely appropriate for particular contexts. But when you are gathering information, you really want to go the route of informational interview. So an informational interview is never asking for a job, it's just asking for advice. So gathering information from an expert in that field, in that organization, in that position, right? So you are identifying that person as the expert, saying, I think what you do is really interesting, or I'm really interested how you translated your IT major into a job with the Smithsonian, right? So maybe you're in a similar situation where you're an IT major, but you've decided you really would like to go into museum work. I don't know, do you, that's fine. So you want to talk to somebody who made that transition. This is a really great way or a really great time to do an informational interview to figure out how did you do that and how can I also do that? You want to make it easy for people to say yes. So, excuse me, tell them what you're asking about. So I want to know about how you transitioned into working for the Smithsonian. I want to know about your certification in XYZ, whatever it is. So identify what you are asking them about how long the conversation is going to take. Like, do you have 20 or 30 minutes to answer a couple of questions? And then also make it easy for them. So make it convenient. Right now, I would say talk over email or Zoom, or have them answer questions through email. I said email already, didn't I? Phone or Zoom, and then email. So basically any of the ways that you would normally contact somebody. When we are able to, be in person and do those things again, you may want to meet with somebody in person. So you might say, hey, can we meet at the Starbucks on XYZ Street, maybe close to campus or close to where they work. So you always want to meet a stranger in a public place, right? So meet them to buy them a cup of coffee and ask a couple of questions. So always make sure that you give them a reason to respond. So again, say what you're looking for, and ask what you're asking, right? So let them know what it is that you're trying to get from the conversation with them. Okay, so who to actually have these conversations with? The short answer is anybody. So anybody that it makes sense to, anybody who you find their experiences interesting, that's somebody that you want to connect with. So your faculty and staff, previous or current supervisors, even if they're not in your primary plan industry, it's important to still keep in contact with people who know you well. They might know somebody who's in your industry, then they can make that connection for you. Friends and family, TU alumni, of course. We'll talk about the Tiger Mentor Network in a second. your career coach. So through the Career Center, we have a bunch of different career coaches, but we all have a lot of expertise. And in particular, our Mac, STEM, and health and wellness career coaches have particular expertise in those areas. Professional associations, as I mentioned before, industry professionals. So again, you might have a dream organization. Try to find somebody in that organization doing something that you find interesting, probably through LinkedIn, and then reach out to them. Again, the same information that I mentioned with the informational interview. And then truly anyone else, right? Your dentist may have a best friend who's in an industry that you're really interested in. So anytime that it's appropriate to have just a brief conversation on what you're looking to do, if they say, oh, my so-and-so does so-and-so, and you say, that's really interesting. Would you mind if I contacted them to learn more about that? Or would you be willing to make an introduction for me? And then you need to follow up. Okay, so if that person makes that introduction for you, make sure that you are still connecting with the person that they've introduced you to. Okay, so I want to mention the Tiger Mentor Network. I've said this a couple of times. So this is a new platform that we launched in March, actually, which connects TU students to alumni and then recently invited faculty and staff members as well. So this is a way for you to connect with TU alumni, faculty and staff, to ask a quick question about career. You can post a question to a group or to a discussion board for all users. You can set up a phone or a video meeting. And then we have a ton of resources, articles and information related to industry-specific interests, but then also general networking tools as well. So this is a way for you to connect without having the stress of LinkedIn, where LinkedIn is kind of everybody, or 106, give or take, thousand TU alumni. Tiger Mentor Network has a list of alumni who have specifically volunteered to help you all with these questions. So it's understood that they're going to respond. I cannot 100% guarantee, but I will say the expectation is that they will respond. And I will say we do have really great response rates with our TU alumni who are in the system. Okay, so the last section, stand out in the application process, prepare and practice. So prep your documents. The best way to stand out in the application is to tailor your resume and your cover letter and all of your application documents. When looking at a job description, circle, underline, highlight any keywords or phrases or anything that seems to be important from the job duties and from the qualification section. And then make sure that those words and phrases are in your resume, they're in your cover letter, and you're using them to prepare for your interview. Especially right now when you're thinking about applying to a lot of different positions, it can be really helpful to have a master copy of your resume with a ton of bullet points and a bunch of different experiences and a bunch of different related courses, right? So kind of everything in one large document. And then you can just copy and paste into a new document, to have multiple versions for the different positions that you apply to. And then with your cover letter, it is almost starting from scratch each time. It should be tailored to every individual position. Obviously, you can still use the same introductory information and probably the same sign-off, but the bulk of your cover letter is going to change each time. But I do promise that writing a cover letter gets easier and faster the more you do it. And the more comfortable you are with it, the better your letters will be and will help you to stand out in that process. Second piece, make sure that you're practicing interviewing. So most of your interviews right now are probably going to be on the phone and or virtual interviews. I have spoken with a few employers who are still doing in person. So another thing, if you're thinking or not thinking, if you find out that you are doing an in-person interview, try practicing a couple of answers with a mask on. I think at this point, we're all relatively comfortable with wearing masks, but when you're talking that much, it's going to be a little bit different. Okay. So make sure that you're practicing with that. The other thing is try it in the mirror, right? So the bottom half of your face is covered, where I know I smile a lot. I have a pretty expressive face, which is something that should come through in your interview. That's not going to come through in your interview if half your face is covered. So make sure that you're looking in the mirror and kind of getting a feel for what that looks like and how you can maybe mitigate some of that if you are interviewing in person. Use Big Interview again. So it's an online mock interview service that records you. So video records you so you can watch back those answers. And that's a really great way to see what it's going to look like in a virtual video interview. The last but definitely not least, you can always sign up for a mock interview through Handshake with the Career Center. So we offer 30 and 60-minute mock interviews plus employer mock interviews. We just opened up one more date, I think middle of November, beginning of November, if I remember correctly. So all the ones that we had were booked, but we did get another employer to volunteer their time. So you can get multiple perspectives on practicing your interview skills. All right, most important thing, last but definitely not least, try not to get too discouraged, okay? The more competitive the job market, the more rejections you're going to get. But that is true for everyone, okay? You're probably gonna have that one friend who gets their dream job right away. Cool for them. The rest of us still have to try really hard, keep reaching out, keep applying, keep trying to find that job that you're looking for. Keep talking to your contacts, so stay in contact with everybody, and then keep gathering your information and adjusting your plans with the new information that you get, okay? Try not to be too discouraged and keep moving forward. Okay, last but not least, here is information on the Career Center. So I mentioned before our express hours process, making appointments through Handshake. There's our website. If you have questions, you're always welcome to send us an email. And then our socials. So any questions?
Thank you, Casey. I'm not seeing any questions in the chat.
Okay.
So this concludes today's webinar. Casey, thank you so much for leading the presentation and joining us. I hope everyone was able to gain some insight on job searching. Excuse me, sorry. I'm going to share my screen again. Okay, so listed on the screen, we have some of the other upcoming events for Senior and Recent Grad Week. I know Casey touched on LinkedIn a lot and using that to look up TU alumni. We have a presentation tomorrow. It's an interactive session where we'll be learning how to maximize our LinkedIn profiles and helping to set yourself up for success, and then utilizing our TU alumni within that. Wednesday, we have a networking session with our Alumni Association board members. And then you can see the other classes listed or sessions listed. You can always register for them. You can find them on alumni.towson.edu/senior-recent-grads. I'll send out the link to everybody in an email so you all have it. And then we also still have some sessions left with photos with the Tigers on campus, so free professional photos. And then make sure you follow the TU Alumni Association on our social media channels and on Tiger Connect. The details are posted in the thing, and I'll include that in the email as well. And thank you, and we hope to see everyone tomorrow.